Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at our first clip on this channel of Slavoj Zizek. Slavoj Zizek, as many of you probably know, is kind of a crazy, fun, interesting guy. He's a little bit all over the place, as any Hegelian should be, or you can expect to be. Anyway, we're going to be looking at I'm not going to say too much about it before we dive in, so let's just dive right in.
The new forms of enslavement, subordination, are sold to us as new forms of freedom.
Okay, so all right, so the new forms of enslavement are sold to us as new forms of freedom. This is an old trope that freedom is slavery, because with freedom comes responsibility, and you have to make choices and you have to suffer the consequences of possibly your bad choices. So you being free could lead to you being enslaved. So this is an old idea from collectivist ideology. Let's continue.
Let me give an example. Now, less and less people have a permanent employment. You are a precarious worker. You don't get in many countries permanent health care and so on.
Okay, so there you go. A permanent employee. So permanent employment does not exist. If he wants it to exist, it is undesirable to have permanent employment. Think about it. That you get a job and you have to stay there. And of course, if he thinks that you can switch jobs, well, that's not permanent employment, right? But just this longing for a sort of fixed or permanent employment, again, is the fear of being responsible. And then he also talks about permanent healthcare. He's going to talk about this a little bit more. I don't know what permanent healthcare means, but let's wait and let's watch a little bit more.
Ideology tells you, listen, isn't this wonderful? You are no longer fixed into one role. Every year you can reinvent yourself.
Okay, he says, ideology tells you this. What ideology? The ideology of individualism? Saying that, isn't it wonderful that you can reinvent yourself every year? Well, I would say that that's absolutely wonderful. I've done a lot of things. For instance, in the last 10 years, I've been everything from a food truck and restaurant owner to a restaurant consultant to now I'm a teacher, and I've even dabbled in a peer-to-peer laundry app that didn't work. I love this freedom to change my mind and try different things. He views this as bad. Anyway, let's go on.
And then the fact that you don't have permanent health care. They tell you, but listen, each of us is now a small capitalist. Let's say you have 5,000 euros. You can freely decide how to invest them. Buy health care, go to a nice holiday, pay special studium for yourself. You see the trick. What is actually a new form of anxiety, permanent stress, is sold to you as a new form of freedom.
Okay, you see that. More choices is actually a new source of anxiety, sold to you as a new choice, a new way to be free, a new style of freedom. But really, choices just give you anxiety. Anything that is impermanent will take away from, as he would say, probably your freedom, ironically. But that's the way it goes with freedom, right? Freedom means that it's risky, right? That you have to live and die by your own hand. They would view this as very bad. Let's talk a little bit more about the permanent healthcare thing. So I live in Sweden. I'm American and Swedish, so I have dual citizenship. I definitely benefit from the Swedish healthcare system. Given that I have some healthcare issues that are quite expensive. But I'm planning on moving back to America. And these things can be fixed. It's a little bit tough to navigate the system there because there isn't a one-size-fits-all system, such as what exists in Sweden. But to think that the American healthcare system is a free healthcare system, or it embraces freedom, is to not understand much. The American healthcare system is as regulated as anything could possibly be. And just the fact of licensing for doctors. Now, people say, well, of course you want your doctor's license. You want your doctors to know what they're doing. I would argue that just because somebody has a license doesn't mean that they are qualified. But that's that's for a different video. Anyway, this idea of permanent healthcare, it doesn't exist, especially not here in Sweden. For instance, in general, in Europe, there is a price, right? That is the max. So if it costs so much in different countries for the state to keep you alive, given your age and things, they'll choose not to do it at a certain point. So there's no permanent healthcare. And then, of course, even here in Sweden, there's a big debate about, for instance, if you live in Stockholm, you get much better healthcare than if you live in Umeå, which is way far in the north. Of course, because in Umeå, it's smaller, it has less resources, and of course, then you will have less access to high quality care. In Stockholm, the largest town in Sweden, they have access to higher quality care so that people in similar circumstances, with similar backgrounds and similar ages, that have a similar disease, will live longer, depending on their proximity to Stockholm. So I don't know what this permanent healthcare mean. There's nothing that is immune to market effects, right? There's nothing that is immune. But back to his characterization of freedom being anxiety-ridden. Well, it could be, right? It depends on your mindset. So this is a common thing with collectivists or socialists or Hegelians in general. They don't want to accept reality. They want to change it. The critical theorists is the more accurate term for this. It doesn't matter to them how the world is. They just talk about how the world should be. But you can't ignore reality, right? Ignoring the consequences of reality will always lead to bad results. This is because the moral and the practical action are the same thing. Ironically, people think that it's practical to do one thing and moral to do another, but it isn't. The reason this is because everything has an identity, meaning an action can't be both good and bad. This would be a contradiction. Of course, Hegelians such as Zizek, they embrace contradiction, but contradictions cannot exist because of the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction. A is A, or as Aristotle said so astutely, a thing is itself. A thing cannot be both itself and not itself. So if we look at our actions, our decisions, they cannot be both moral and immoral, or both practical and impractical, or it doesn't make sense for it to be practical and immoral, because an action is a singular event. So in that sense, practical and immoral, that would mean that it's both good and bad, which is a contradiction. Anyway, we need to accept reality if we want to have good lives and have good results as well. We don't have to focus on the consequences. We just have to focus on the process. And because there are no contradictions, if each action is good, the consequences will also be good. Anyway, this focus on anxiety as being necessarily coming from choice and from freedom is something that I just can't really get behind. And even if it is true that making choices gives you anxiety, this does not change the fact that you must make choices. Again, back to his permanent job, permanent role in society, that this would reduce anxiety and then therefore in his mind maybe increase freedom. There is no way to get away from the fact that choices will be made. If you don't make the choices, somebody else is making the choices for you. There is no way there's always going to be a choice. There's no way to avoid this completely. Avoiding reality is very bad as well. It's evasion, and evasion of reality is what can only lead to bad results. So when he says that we don't want these choices, it'd be better if we had a permanent job, a permanent role, a permanent anything. He's basically saying that, well, somebody needs to rule us so that we don't have to suffer freedom. It's unrealistic. Let's put it that way. And unrealistic is bad. Not only bad, it's impractical and immoral, to be specific. And to end this with a Thomas Jefferson quote, he said that timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempestuous sea of liberty. Yes, the tempestuous sea. It is uncertain. It is up and down. It's stormy. It's calm, and you don't really know. And that is what freedom is, right? We have to navigate this space and make choices ourselves and use our reason. The alternative is barbarism, authoritarianism, tyranny. And of course, a lot of people think that a benign tyranny would be the greatest form of government. I couldn't disagree more. This is a value judgment, and I value my life. I don't view, I do not blend the metaphysical and the man-made, right? What is real independent of what you think about it. The man-made is our society and things, and of course this is important, but the one does not determine the other, right? The social does not determine the reality, right? Reality determines everything. That's just how it is. So this has been me actually thinking today. If you think I was doing a bad job, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.